G'day warriors, alrighty, in this video we're going to discuss what type of tumour I have, and this was a very common question, and it was recently asked by Uniquely Geeky is the YouTube handle. So thank you Uniquely Geeky for getting this question out and motivating me to get onto this video. Alright, so in today's video we're going to have three things that we're going to cover, but first I want to go into a bit of a background. So after the background, the first thing we're going to cover is the type and the size of my tumor. Point number two, we're going to discuss the growth and the timeline of what happened to lead me to get surgery. And point number three is the thing that I would wish I had have done differently, and some advice I'll pass on to you guys in case you and or your family members or whoever don't make the same kind of mistake. Alrighty, so give you guys a bit of a background. So you may or may not know how I found my tumor. I'm a personal trainer. I was out running with a client. I got really overpowering dizziness while we were doing a run with a client, and I couldn't stand up. So I kind of knew something was wrong. I was doing very heavy keto diet at the time, so I just thought maybe I just need some carbohydrates. So I drove home and had some carbs. But for the next 2 years, I was dizzy all day, every day, and that persistent dizziness would not go away. So I jumped from naturopath to specialist to surgeon to doctor to GP to try and work out what it was. It wasn't until I went to an ear, nose, and throat specialist who took a MRI of my brain just in case, which led us to find a lesion growing in the cerebellum. So the surgeon I saw immediately after that happened to just have an office 2 floors above my ear, nose, and throat specialist. So I went to see him initially, and because the lesion was located in my cerebellum, which is at the base of our brain, he said it was in too difficult a spot to biopsy or operate for him to go in there and get a small portion of the tissue of the tumor to actually see what it was. So I was in this limbo for years of not knowing what it was, not knowing if it was dangerous, malignant, fast growing, fast acting, and not actually knowing how it would impact my life. So I'm a pretty anxious person, and I got kind of fed up with living with this anxiety and daily dizziness. So I actually reached out to Charlie Teo, who is a very famous surgeon throughout the world, and he's renowned for operating and looking after hard to operate tumors that no other surgeons want to go near. So I reached out to him, and we got in touch, and we sat down, and he goes, "Look, mate, I'm going to give you the same advice the other guy did. It's in a very gnarly spot." He's like, "If I cut in, I'm going to affect your swallow, your coordination, your balance, and your dizziness even further." He goes, "For now, what I recommend is let's just monitor it with routine MRIs, and let's just see what happens and see how it grows or what happens." So this went on for about, let's call it 7 years, where I was getting MRIs every year just to have a look and see what was happening. And what I'll do, point number 3 of this video, I'll allude to the biggest mistake I made and what I wish I'd done differently. But I just wanted to give you a bit of that background onto, we had the first initial symptoms of dizziness. We didn't know what it was for 2 years. We then worked out it was very, very, very gnarly after we found it because of the location. And then what we were doing, we were just monitoring it with routine MRIs just to check. And this went on for 7 years, which was a long time to live a life knowing in your head there was something potentially growing that could have been dangerous. But at the same time, the fact that it went on for so long kind of meant that it was slow growing and it wasn't too ferocious or aggressive or voracious at the time. So it was kind of a good and a bad thing. But yeah, I basically had to get on living a normal life as a personal trainer, knowing there was a potentially catastrophic and dangerous tumor growing in the back of my brain. So let's go to point number 1, the type of tumor and the size. So I don't know too much about the names and I guess backgrounds of many tumors. When I first got diagnosed, I was so overwhelmed with the fear and the what to do. I didn't really pay too much attention to sizes and what it was. But after I finally got operated on in 2020, my surgeon came in and he could then tell me what it was. And he goes, look, Joel, it's a slow growing ganglioma, GANGLIOMA. For me, that name or that word didn't really mean too much. The fact that he said slow growing was an amazing release of pressure release, which was absolutely fantastic, and the weight of the world off my shoulders. It was also quite nice to know the name of it after 9-10 years of knowing I had a lesion in my brain. We now confirmed it was a tumor and it was called a ganglioma. So I'm not sure, to you fellow viewers and you fellow warriors out there, what tumors you guys have, and I'd love to know, so chuck them in the comments below. And I'd really love to know if anyone else out there has a ganglioma, because I've never ever heard of it before going through this journey, and I'd be interested to see if anyone else has. So the size initially was 11 millimeters. Then over the years, and when we got to the MRI I took in 2020, it had grown from 11 millimeters to 15 millimeters, and that's when it was decided that we needed to operate. I asked my surgeon, what happens if we don't operate and we just leave it? He said eventually it would grow and my heart and lungs would stop and I would pass away. So that was an easy decision to get surgery, even though he made it very clear that the after surgery deficits were going to completely revolutionize and change my life. So I guess I just chipped into point number 2, the growth journey. So over the years I was getting these MRIs, and then in 2020 we realized that the growth had gone from 11 millimeters to 15 millimeters, and it was time to operate. We had to get it out of there, because my surgeon explained to me a tumor isn't like a nice little round, well-behaved vessel. It can get stuck in your brain tissue like chewing gum in your hair, and it's very difficult to remove. And the bigger it gets and the longer you leave it in there, the stickier and more stuck the chewing gum or the tumor gets. So the sooner to get it out, the better. And this leads me on to point number 3 and my biggest regret. Back in 2015, when I was told to just get routine MRIs to keep an eye on it, I guess I'm a bit of an avoidant personality, and I got so busy with life, I didn't stick to my annual routine or going for MRIs as diligent as I wish I had of. I also was getting CT scans instead of MRIs some years, and ironically, and I've said this in past videos, CT scans, in my experience, don't show you enough detail as an MRI does. In January of 2020, I got a CT scan that showed absolutely no growth, no lesion, no tumor at all. But I had a really weird feeling in my gut and my instinct that said, go and get an MRI. A week later, I went and got an MRI, and then I went to get it looked at by my surgeon. And that's when I got the bad news. It was February 2020. He goes, look, Joel, your lesion has actually grown from an 11 millimeter lesion, and it's now grown into a 15 centimeter tumor. So I think you need to reconnect with Charlie Teo and let him give you his advice. And so I went and met with Charlie, and his advice was, look, Joel, we do have to operate now that it has grown. It would have been nice if we kind of caught it a little bit sooner, a few years back. But yeah, as I said, I was getting CT scans and MRIs, and I was kind of new to all this, so I'm not blaming anyone. I'm blaming myself for not researching and being diligent. But yeah, I just didn't do the necessary follow-ups and getting the right scans, which would be my advice to any of you out there that are going through something similar. Always get an MRI, and always put your health first, and don't let life take over and you get too busy and try and push these nasty thoughts into the background. Just stay on top of your health, especially when it's to do with a lesion growing in your brain. So to wrap up the video, ganglioma, It was 11 millimeters. It grew to 15 millimeters. We operated. My life changed forever in 2020 when I got brain surgery. I now have ataxia. The left-hand side of my body feels like it's had a stroke, like it's very uncoordinated and unbalanced. Um, and yeah, my swallow got affected, which is a bizarre symptom, but I didn't walk, eat, or see for 3 months after my surgery, and I had to teach myself to walk again and to swallow again. And my vision has come back. And yeah, the one thing I wish I had have done was just stayed on top of my, I guess, my care plan and my annual MRIs, and not letting life get too busy. And then I was getting these 18-month CT scans that just weren't detailed enough. So if your surgeon or your doctor or your GP or your care person says get MRIs every 12 months, get MRIs every 12 months. Not like me who got CT scans every 18 to 24 months. Alrighty guys, I'm going to end the video how I always do, sending positive thoughts to any of you out there that are in recovery or who are getting chemo or radiation or who have an MRI coming up and are awaiting some results. I send you nothing but positive vibes, and I wish you nothing but the best. Alright guys, I'll talk to you in the next video. Peace.